wealth, fame, power.
Gold Roger, the king of the pirates, achieved this and everything else the world had to offer, and his dying words drove countless souls to the seas. If you want my treasure, you can have it. I left everything I gathered together in one place. Now you just have to find it. And so began the great age of pirates. Aikikeno yume wo kagi atsunde.
I knew I could get you going.
I'm honestly surprised I managed to get through that whole chunk without stumbling, because normally I fuck up. But welcome back for those of you who guessed that my hint last react was not, in fact, some sort of clever, veiled allusion at a teacher like Chiron, but in fact, one of the worst puns that Knick-Knack has ever heard.
You will burn in hell for that.
The comments are split about half and half on the hint. Like half the people are like, "It's Teach. It was a terrible pun." And the other half are like, "Perhaps you mean teacher, like Chiron or one of the other teachers."
It's taking all my self-control not to say Sekhie wasn't being that smart.
Right. So we're back for hopefully what we thought was going to be a shorter episode. However, things just happened to transpire that on hand in my library I had The Republic of Pirates, The History of Pirates, and Piratology.
So our thought was wrong because you're a fucking hoe for history.
Yeah, so I really like history. Also, like, dead ass, I was refreshing myself on this stuff, right, for this episode. And what was really funny was I had actually, I forget sometimes that a lot of the One Piece pirates are based on actual pirates. So, there's Blackbeard, whose name is, like, T.H.E. And there's Bellamy, right, who works, like, with T.H.E. and stuff like that. So, like, I'm, like, seeing the names and I'm like, I remember all of these.
I love the dichotomy of One Piece. Sometimes you have pirates based off actual pirate names. And other times you have Big Mama.
Yeah. But fun little story. My obsession with pirates started early in life. I actually, my parents bought me like a bunch of the ology books. This is one of the earliest ones I had. This is Piratology. And basically, it's, for those of you who've never experienced the ology books, because I've referred to them before. I pulled them out for something else. They're kind of both history books and interest books for kids, right? Like they do actually have a lot of like correct information, but it's set in like a story format, and it's like it like the pages have like little flip outs and touchable stuff and like fun little layouts and stuff, which makes it like really interesting and engaging for children to read. For example, this is a diagram of Queen Anne's Revenge. Right? This is actually Blackbeard's ship, a diagram of it. And then this is like a chart that would be accurate to that time in history. And it's got like the section here has like Nassau and New Providence and stuff. And then this pages was on Blackbeard, right? Because the plot of this book is that this is the journal of a captain who's chasing Arabella Drummond, who is like spiritual kind of like female version of Blackbeard, like horrible pirate woman, like similar ship to Queen Anne's Revenge. Anyways, but they pepper in a lot of like actual fact. So this is how I started learning about pirates, and I was obsessed with this book, right? And so, this is one of those kind of like, once again, it's a history book. It does have correct facts and stuff like that, but it's in like a format palatable for the casual reader, or like someone maybe in middle school, something like that, like the casual reader. On the other hand, this is an actual like academically written book about the Republic of Pirates, the true and surprising story of the Caribbean pirates and the man who brought them down, by Colin Woodard. And this includes a huge set of references for actual scholarly sources and stuff like that. So it kind of spans. You've got a children's book, kind of an entry-level book, higher-level book. I'm sure there's some other mentions inside my library. There's probably a couple other pirate books, but I'm not going to go looking for them now. Anyways.
I mean, I see an entire-ass shelf of pirate books.
There is a One Piece shelf up there, but that does not count in this case. Speaking of people who know a lot about pirates, Oda! So, getting into the history, I've got a couple tangents, and I figured It might be good to cover the tangents first because they're all kind of like background info that I think is important.
Before we get into it, there's something new on your shelf today.
Yes! Hang on, I gotta go get it.
Figured it's better show it off here than in whatever off the shelf we got.
I got a Clio. It was a birthday gift, an early birthday gift. Honestly, I really wanted to put her next to Ozzy, but she's
not very shelf friendly.
She takes a lot of space, so she's going up where I used to keep Hawks, and Hawks has been relegated up to the One Piece figures. I will figure out a better place to put
Hawks, my favorite One Piece character.
But she is up next to my complete translated Julius Caesar and Herodotus, so I feel like that's a good enough place to put her. Put the last queen of Egypt on the history shelf. She is stunning. Also, if you hear any jingling, Peaches is back in a fucking cone because she's got an infection going in for another operation. But yeah, so she's jingling around and she may try to like climb up on us. So, me and my small little history section. Practically minuscule. So I wanted to start with a couple tangents. So we're going to start with the Golden Age of Pirates. So, because this is where all of our story takes place. So the Golden Age of Pirates lasted from about 40 years, from about 1690 to 1730, at the most generous estimates. Most of the piracy outbreak at the unprecedented scale happened from about 1714 to 1722, so a little less than a decade even. It was characterized by men who didn't really prey on ships of gold and treasure, but kind of everyday commerce from Europe and West Africa to the colonies and the Caribbean and then back to Europe. There were several causes of this great age of piracy, some of them being the age of buccaneers ending, so like the age of people being paid by the Brits and the French to prey on the Spanish, which happened in like the 1600s into like kind of the late 1600s. There were some outbreaks of European wars, which meant that a lot of letters of marque were distributed and privateers were created. And then when the wars ended, these privateers were left with nothing, kind of no line of work to turn to. Like there just weren't enough commissions in the Navy and stuff like that. And then it left a lot of people unemployed, and there was a kind of an overall lack of like strong colonial oversight in the North American and Caribbean waters, which allowed for illicit trade to flourish for a significant amount of time. As the Golden Age would come to an end, it was mostly due to government and military crackdowns, and the concept and idea of these pirates from the Golden Age of piracy became like romantic and escapist in literature, and that's where you get like pirate romances, of which there's definitely one on the shelf over there. I think it's called To Catch a Pirate. It's also where you look at like Treasure Island and stuff, like the romanticization and kind of, they buried the treasure here, left X marks the spot on a map. That didn't really happen. Only like 2 or 3 pirate captains are ever known to have like buried treasure. And generally, the pirates who were claiming like huge treasure ships were in the 1600s, when the Spanish were sending huge treasure ships. Not really in the 1700s, when it was more of just like an economic thing to do. You know what I mean? So, it's a very specific time period. And this is the time period that Blackbeard operated in primarily and lived during. So, T.H.E would find his success in New Providence at the port of Nassau. What's important about that is that this is the main home base of the Republic of Pirates, which was active from 1706 to 1718. The port at Nassau had a fort, but the fort was damaged in 1700 by Spanish attacks and was later eventually entirely abandoned by soldiers by 1703, which made it ideal for pirates to inhabit during the Golden Age. And by 1713, there were over 1,000 pirates living there, outnumbering the civilian locals who only numbered like 400 to 500. One of the pirates living there Thomas Barrow would declare himself the governor. And in 1718, Woodes Rogers, who was a former privateer himself, would come over from India, sent by George I of Great Britain as the new governor, and he would end this kind of like golden age of piracy, mostly through pardon acts and then a severe military crackdown. Basically, he put into place an act I'll talk about a little later in Blackbeard's story that was basically, don't commit a crime after this day. Go see someone with the royal ability to pardon before this day, and you can be pardoned for any crime before that first date, up to and including murder.
So pretty much anyone who was a pirate out of necessity no longer had to be a pirate.
Yep. Now, there were people who would take advantage of that, and we're going to talk about that. So, the Republic of Pirates was a loose confederacy of former privateers operating in the years I told you. It was typically governed by the Pirates Code. There is no Pirates Code, like one code. That's not a thing.
Parley.
Right. Parley. Basically every ship had its own code, or it was essentially the like charter code of conduct, and a lot of pirates would burn them when they were captured. So we only have like 8 or 9 remaining codes that are really well preserved. They're all get similar, like we're gonna vote on things, we're gonna distribute the loot in this way, we're gonna, that kind of thing. So this organization was dominated by 2 people, Hornigold and Henry Jennings, who were bitter rivals. Hornigold would go on to mentor Edward T.H.E, Sam Bellamy, and Stede Bonnet, while Jennings would mentor Charles Vane, Calico Jack Rackham, and Anne Bonny and Mary Read. Some of my favorites. I cannot wait till we get to them. I really can't. Captaincy of this confederation was held by Hornigold and Jennings from 1706 to 1716, and then T.H.E himself would hold it for the final 2 years it was in operation. So that's kind of the general background to the Great Pirate Era, and then I actually have a lot less on T.H.E. That was the majority of my first page, was just the background info. So Blackbeard is also known as Edward T.H.E or Edward Thatch. Presumably he lived from around 1680 to the 22nd of November, 1718. Of many infamous members of the Republic of Pirates during this golden age of piracy, he is by and far one of the most well-known. However, for all that, many aspects of his life are still opaque to historians, especially before 1716. So, based on the assumptions that at the time of his death, he was around 35 to 40. He was likely born around 1680, give or take 2 years, kind of on either side. Presumably in England. There's a lot of different spellings for his name. We're probably never going to be entirely sure, because, birth records are shit that far back, especially in, Britain and during this time when people were moving all over the continent. So, during the 17th and 18th centuries, Bristol was a massive port city due to a colonial and West African trade. He was likely born there, and then he took a ship from there to the Caribbean at the end of the 17th century, likely a merchant ship. The 18th century author Charles Johnson said that he may have worked as a sailor on a privateer ship during the War of Spanish Succession in Jamaica before moving over to becoming a pirate and privateer himself in 1716 in New Providence and Nassau. So around 1716, it's recorded that he joined Benjamin Hornigold and was placed in charge of a sloop that was taken as a prize, right? The sloop was called Revenge. Not called Revenge, but he would later get a ship called Revenge. So T.H.E and his first mate would, at this point, apparently, according to accounts, develop a deep love for Madeira wine and would take several ships captive just to take their wine stores. And then scuttling them around 1717. This cruise with Hornigold, where he did this thing with the Madeira wine, is the first reports of him as an independent force commanding his own ship, which had men and guns. Right, so this is the first time that he is not just the mate of another pirate, but he is, in his own right, captain of a ship. So, in September, they would encounter Stede Bonnet, who was new to piracy. Stede Bonnet would later become known as the Gentleman Pirate, and we're going to talk about him later as well. He was one of the other disciples of Hornigold. Stede Bonnet was new to piracy. His crew was very unhappy with him, so with his permission, T.H.E would take control of his ship, the Revenge, which would become his main flagship going forward for a while. Him and Hornigold now would command 3 ships between them. However, Hornigold was interesting because he would not attack British ships, right? He kind of clung on to that privateer mindset and wouldn't attack British ships. And His crew was not a fan of that, so he was demoted in like 1717, and he would eventually he would retire and take his ship, the Ranger, and another sloop. Incidentally, Honengold would also would turn traitor and become a pirate hunter in 1718, accepting the pardon from Woodes Rogers during the 1718 pardons. And he would, I think, capture and turn in 10 different famous pirates over the course of his career as a pirate hunter before dying. Because you get, like, he knew who they were, he knew how they behaved. So he made a very good pirate hunter. Which, traitor! So in November of 1717, T.H.E would take the ship La Concorde, which was a large French Guineaman. It would be renamed to Queen Anne's Revenge. And that would become his flagship. This was the kind of the biggest ship in his fleet. He would also take another ship, I think another sloop maybe, which he would rename to Mauvaise Rencontre, which means bad meeting. He would continue to capture and burn ships for the rest of 1718, kind of all over the place. And at this point, he was described by several people as being a tall, broad, strong man with long, thick, braided black hair. Interestingly enough, there's actually several stories of him. He's actually pictured in my book here in 2 different ways doing this. But he was said to put, like, fuses and matches tied into his braids and set them on fire before attacking another ship. So, like, his braids would be, like, smoking and swinging about with flames. Although, genuinely, with the hygiene at the time, I'm really, really surprised that it didn't just go up in flames. I'm gonna be honest.
Light his entire past face on fire?
Yeah, like you would think. He was also described as hellish at this point by a few different people. He wore many pistols and apparently was really good at intimidation. T.H.E and Bonnet, which Bonnet was still serving under him, so obviously they had a pretty good relationship. Stede Bonnet, we mentioned him earlier. They would continue their reign of terror into 1718, and in May of 1718 he would name himself Commodore, and at the height of his power his flotilla would blockade Fort Charles in South Carolina, demanding drugs and medical supplies from the governor there. So the governor would give in, but it's a really funny story. So he gets the people to agree, right? And then he sends the guy with, like, 2 pirate escorts to go to the colony, right? And tell them what he wants. And the, like, sailboat they take capsizes along the way. So he gives them, like, 2 extra days to make their way here. So they get there, and then they don't come back immediately, right? So T.H.E brings, like, 8 of his ships into the harbor, right? To start harassing the other ships. And so the messenger finally gets back to him and he's like, cool it. Like, we're giving you the medical supplies. It's just your 2 pirate escorts fucked off to a tavern and didn't tell us and spent several days getting drunk and we couldn't find them to come back to you. Which is a little funny. It's a little funny. They pirated too well. There he would learn of Woodes Rogers coming and sail his flotilla to Beaufort Inlet, and on June 10th, Queen Anne's Revenge and one of his other ships would run aground and were really badly damaged, and Queen Anne's Revenge would actually be scuttled there. So he would then take control back of Revenge and continue using Revenge. Interestingly enough, Queen Anne's Revenge was actually found by a private firm in 1996 and is now on the National Register of Historic Places, with over 260,000 artifacts being gathered, complete with, I think, 24 of the 30 cannons on board, and most of the cannons have identifiable maker's marks and dates so they can trace it back to who made them, from what country, and when, which is fascinating. So T.H.E actually at this point learned of the royal pardon with the deadline of September 5th, 1718, but of the fact that it would not pardon any acts committed after January 5th of 1718. So he said to Stede, he was like, hey, so I think that Governor Eden, right, of Carolina, right, is pretty chill. Why don't you go and see if he'll pardon you, right, and all the crime you've done after January, right? Because if he does that for you, then maybe he'll do that for me, right? So Steed goes, he gets pardoned, he's told he can take up a commission, so he goes back to get his ship and his crew, only to find out that Blackbeard has taken everything of value off the ship and marooned his crew. He then sets out in revenge, but cannot find Blackbeard, which is fucking hilarious.
So the man just up and abandoned everyone.
Yeah, so he and his crew would then return to piracy and be captured on the 27th of September, and all but 4 were hanged for it. In Fort Charles, actually, where they had blockaded the year prior. T.H.E proceeded to get his own pardon from Governor Eden, and was told to sail to St. Thomas for commission with his ship now renamed Adventure, and by August he had returned to piracy, but was still hiding behind the privateer's mark, basically. So
it's not piracy if the king tells you can do it.
So the governor of Pennsylvania at this point issued a warrant for his arrest, and because he took 2 French ships, and then he would sail them back to Ocracoke, which was his favorite place to dock. He would then see Charles Vane, who had rejected the offer of pardon and escaped back to Nassau, spending a few days together with them, Israel Hands, Robert Deal, and Calico Jack, some other really famous pirates at the time. Alexander Spotswood, the governor of Virginia, and the governor of Pennsylvania did not like this, so they tried to capture him, but they couldn't. They would then argue in court that T.H.E was enough of a crisis that they as governors should be allowed to try him without convening a council, which was not done at the time. But to be honest, he kind of was a crisis, and this was a problem, so they were right. Eventually, with new intel, Lieutenant Robert Maynard of the HMS Pearl would take 2 sloops to go find Blackbeard, where the intel said, and then the captains Gordon and Brand would also be sent to capture him. Maynard found them at Ocracoke on the 21st of November. He would stop all ships from coming in and warning them. And then Israel Hands and a bunch of the other crew were ashore. And so the crew manning the boat with Edward T.H.E was really skeletal, maybe 25 men at best. So this came to a final showdown. T.H.E fought valiantly. He ended up breaking Maynard's cutlass, according to most stories, but then he was slit across the neck by another member of Maynard's crew. Death tolls for the battle vary, and when T.H.E.'s body was recovered, it was said that it sported 5 bullets and more than 20 different wounds from swords. It was then thrown overboard into the ocean. You know, because pirate scum, of course.
Fuck this guy.
The remainder of his crew were found and arrested. Almost all of them were hanged, I think with the exception of Israel Hands, who claimed he'd been shot in the knee by Blackbeard, and then he ended up being pardoned. And Governor Eden was, of course, very embarrassed about all of this because it was his privateer seal that Blackbeard had been sailing under, and then the Virginia and Pennsylvania governors had to come up there and deal with it for him. So for all of what we hear about T.H.E was actually not very successful as a pirate. He didn't get to retire with mountains of gold like some pirates did. And then, interestingly enough, the Jolly Roger that we have attributed to him was likely never actually used by him when he was sailing. It was likely created afterwards as part of kind of the fear surrounding the devil himself, because he was considered to be the devil by a lot of people. And Edward T.H.E would essentially become the stuff of legends going forward, something to be written about in different media franchises and stuff like that.
His legends were more impressive than he was.
Pretty much. I mean, not to say he wasn't impressive, because he did have a fairly prolific career for 2 full years being the absolute worst of everything. Mini tangent that I would like to go on. Jolly Rogers. Most of you have probably heard the term Jolly Roger, and you're thinking, oh yeah, each pirate has his own Jolly Roger. That's kind of true, and it's kind of not. So Jolly Rogers were introduced in the 1600s, and there certainly was a Jolly Roger, but a lot of pirate captains didn't bother to create their own. They would just fly a dirty sheet or a piece of black cloth or a piece of red cloth to kind of symbolize that they were coming. There were very few pirates that actually had listed Jolly Rogers during the time when they were active that weren't attributed to them later by other sources. There were really only a few. And then a lot of pirates would still fly, like, because they were former privateers, they would still fly the flags of the country that they were privateers of to try to trick those vessels into thinking that they wouldn't attack them. It was also fairly common for pirate vessels to fly native flags of, like, certain places and pretend to be merchant vessels, and then to broadside another ship, raise the pirate flag, and blast them out of the water. So that is my brief kind of go around on Edward T.H.E. It wasn't that bad.
No. Not in comparison to some servants.
Cleo. But yeah, so I have heard many things about Blackbeard. I encountered him in campaign briefly. We beat the shit out of him very fast.
Do you remember his class?
Ryder?
Yeah.
Yeah, because he has Queen Anne's Revenge. It's like Francis Drake. I know Francis Drake has the Golden Hind, just because I faced them. Well, her. I know it's a her because, campaign stuff. It's the D&D campaign. What am I going to do about it? Some things get spoiled. But I have not seen Blackbeard's design. I did avoid it, although I know that Realm, like, kind of, I think, in like a meme lord kind of way, likes Blackbeard, and I've heard
that this is not a servant to take 100% seriously going in.
No, I've heard many things about perversion and being a trashy person. So,
well, first of all, you had a second tab open here, just for the people that wanted to see one of the flags.
Yeah, so this is the flag actually ascribed to him. I think this was likely ascribed to him afterwards because he became known as like literally the devil, like something like that. So obviously you've got the devil there. Little horns on his head and everything. But, like, this is very intricate for, like, a pirate to be able to, like, purchase or create.
This is not something you could replicate easily on whatever black cloth you found.
Yeah.
Not quickly, at least.
Yeah. Also, black cloth was hard to keep. Like, these ships are sailing in the sun. Black cloth fades. So, like, yeah, they might have flown, like, dirty or black cloth, but it wouldn't have stayed very pristine.
You're saying that it was common that they would raise it up as a symbol to, like,
yeah,
get people talking.
You weren't just sailing around the seas, pirate flag out 24/7, because then you might attract attention from the men of war.
If you pass a pirate ship that has their flag up, they already know you're there. They're either trying to spook you or they're telling you, "Pull over, we're taking shit."
Yep. Anyways, I just thought that was interesting.
Okay, so Edward T.H.E.
Well, holy shit, he looks like a One Piece character. No, deadass. I feel like I've seen an anime character who looks like him.
We can take a look at the artist here in a minute if you want. It's definitely not Oda.
No. But I swear to fucking God, I've seen an anime character who looks just like him. Is that a giant hooked middle finger?
It's not his middle finger, but it's like a hook. Like it's a glove that has a hook on it.
Yeah. You know what? It's very sad that he just has the one little scraggedy ass
beard
braid.
It's like,
yeah, you could do better.
That is a man that wanted to grow a beard.
Yeah.
But didn't have the genes for it.
Yeah. What is that? A MASH doll?
That's a MASH figure, and that's another servant figure.
Why are there like... Why is there a T-Rex and gaming consoles and cards?
Because Blackbeard is a total fucking weeb.
There's a PlayStation back there.
Yeah.
Huh. He really looks like a One Piece character here. Actually, he just looks like a One Piece character in general. I gotta be honest. He's drunk. Jesus.
You have those days.
I feel it.
And just the sprites here.
Yeah.
Don't believe there's anything else under there. Oh, wait. Yep, there's this. I think this is a summer outfit of his.
He really... You have to agree with me. He really does look like a One Piece character.
Well, let's take a look at the artist here. Usually, they list the artist up here somewhere.
Nope. It's not listed.
Huh.
There's a voice actor, but that's it.
Illustrator.
Oh.
Sekhie. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't...
Yeah, like I said, it wasn't Oda.
Yeah, it looks like a One Piece character, though. I kind of hate it. I kind of like it.
So, T.H.E is obviously a rider class servant.
Yep.
It's not really known why or how, but like I said, T.H.E became probably the biggest otaku in Fate behind maybe one other servant. Paired with the pirate thing, he's pretty much no better than a modern day degenerate.
Does he perhaps pirate his games?
I could only hope.
One can only hope. If he doesn't, that's pathetic. You gotta pirate your own games, man.
When I say he's a degenerate, I don't just mean like degenerate. I mean like...
Yeah.
This is a fucking incel right here.
I've heard many things. Nothing specific, but many things.
Like, the man's... The man's a bro sometimes, but also there's an entire... Let's just say none of the other female, like, seafaring heroic spirits particularly care for him.
Okay. Well, I mean, to be fair, criminals on the high seas in the 1700s weren't exactly known for their chivalry. In fact, Stede Bonnet literally got the name the Gentleman Pirate just because he was nicer, like, and more gentlemanly than other pirates, and he was still a fucking murderous pirate. I mean, the bar is low. The bar is, like, under the ocean here for chivalry.
Yeah, no one would call him an ally to women everywhere. Now, that said, usually his deep perversion and incellery tends to be bad for his health.
Yeah, I could imagine some of the female servants just beating the ever-loving shit out of him.
For a while there, I don't see it much anymore, but for like, I swear to God, the first year and a half of FGO, every event killed off Blackbeard at some point.
Valid.
And usually it was his fault, except for the time where everyone just kind of lands on him and kills him immediately.
Valid.
I guess, why don't I go ahead and show you some of his, right here, just the different,
Crude to Drake, yeah.
calls her a hag. Due to her being supposedly too old for his taste.
I mean, she is from earlier era of pirates. See, Bartholomew Roberts is one of the few pirates who actually retired rich. Like, and successful. And Bonnie and Mary Read did not. Yeah, annoyed. I can imagine that. Christopher Columbus. As jealous he got a happy end. Fuck that shit. I feel that.
I wish really badly that I could, like... And I did actually try to see if I could actually find, like, a best of Blackbeard clip montage. Because it's kind of hard to do him justice, just explaining his personality here.
But no?
No, I couldn't find any. Like, I'm sure I could, like, go to old event stories and, like, look out for those specific lines.
But it would have taken a lot of time.
The only, like... And unfortunately, the only one that really comes to mind off the top of my head is his most quotable line in any of the events. There's an event where he tries to shoot you out of the sky while screaming, "Normies explode."
Jesus fucking Christ. Ah.
Oh. I guess I should also note he is the kind of person you don't want to keep around magical girls.
Jesus. Okay. Methy. Okay.
Alright, so yeah, see some of his tools here.
Cutlasses, pistols. That makes sense. Oh, interesting. His writing skill has been lost due to Voyager of the Storm? Honor of... Okay, I'll read those.
Yeah.
Right. So magic resistance writing, obviously. Voyager of the Storm. The talent to sail vessels recognized as ships. Oh, so instead of you get a ship. Instead of a horse, you get a ship. Okay.
Yeah.
Honor of pirates, derived from pirates' peculiar set of values, low ranking mental pollution, valor, battle continuation. While he can be violent towards his subordinates without warning, he also possesses the bravery to savagely charge at a forest of swords and rain of bullets. Very true. Gentlemanly love. Bullshit. Bullshit.
No information available.
Yeah. Queen Anne's Revenge, the noble phantasm, the vessel ship that Blackbeard boarded on. Originally it was French, plundered by Blackbeard, renamed Queen Anne's Revenge, becoming a pirate ship.
Yeah.
Exactly what I said.
I mean, outside of the fact that he's designed as a scraggly man, and the fact that he has kind of
is he tall?
Not really.
Yeah.
Not that I could tell, at least. Then again, FGO sprites are kind of wacky.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, because they're all kind of...
lopsided.
Yeah.
Or not lopsided. Some of the older ones are just like
Yeah.
shorter. Newer ones are larger, and you have things like, I think... Da Vinci is the same size as like a middle school child.
Yeah. Yeah. Understandable.
So I guess, yeah, we just get right into the NP here, because
Okay.
I guess the Queen Anne's Revenge. So if I clicked into this, it would bring up the fact that when he summons the Queen Anne's Revenge, he gets his subordinates, and he gets a boat capable of firing about 40 cannons in an instant towards an enemy ship. If Blackbeard has any additional help from true servants besides his own subordinates, it's even stronger. So, like, while you get servants like Anne Bonn and Mary Read that absolutely despise this fucker, they know working with him's going to get them farther than not.
Yeah. I mean... Calico Jack, Anne Bonny, and Mary Read were part of the Republic of Pirates while Blackbeard was the captain of it. Like, it was a coalition. Like, they weren't all sailing under the same flag. They weren't all agreeing on everything, but they were all generally in cahoots, using the same ports.
I should also note he doesn't need to be on the ocean to summon the Queen's Anne Revenge, but it takes a lot more magical energy to do that. Whereas if he's on the ocean, he could just plop it down for almost little to no magical energy consumption.
Yeah,
so it's
just...
This makes... But the fact that it's that powerful and it's that good on water means if you're on water, this thing's broken.
Oh, yeah. So's the Golden Hind.
Alright, so get into the NP. So this NP's had a lot of updates over the years, so we're just going to sit through this collection of NP updates.
I'm fine with that.
There's one of his sprites.
Queen Anne's Revenge! 行くでござる行くでござる
Yeah, that's a big benefit.
That's just an alternate costume.
Yeah.
And then we have an arcade.
Yay! I love arcades. You paused it. It was playing. It just takes a second.
I'm impatient.
Get it halfway there then next time.
Oh yeah, これは奇遇ですな。黒ひげ参上ですぞ。緑は敵ですぞ。海賊流オン。
Pistols.
行くでござる行くでござる。クイーンアンズリベンジ。
Fancy little posing.
Just that little hole.
Fucking twinkle toes up in here.
So yeah, that
I mean,
is...
the Queen Anne's Revenge looks awesome. Like, I cannot complain about that.
Look, woman flocked to Blackbeard for his ship, not himself.
I ship it. So you have some card arts for me.
Yes.
Potentially. Not many, I assume. Or perhaps many.
This guy appears in a lot of events.
Oh, okay. Anything in the other? Okay, so there's
click through
icon,
these.
sprites,
The different weapons.
sprites, yeah. Expression sheets. I love with the parrots.
This is my favorite.
I like the parrots.
Oh, the same one with the birds.
He's got the parrots.
See, then he's got
Yeah.
a few arts here.
Yeah. Playing cards.
No,
no.
playing Pokemon probably.
Oh,
that's
on
a Game Boy.
See, the reason why I say it looks like One Piece is because the way that they draw the leg hair is like the same as One Piece. And it's got that really simplified face where it's like...
I can see that.
You know what I mean.
Yeah, now that you bring that up.
Yeah. Also, in this particular photo, the muscles are also drawn somewhat like some of the One Piece characters. I don't know.
This is what I mean by he can be a bro. Like, he's just straight up playing Pokemon with a female master.
Yeah. I mean, valid. He looks a little bit like Gold Roger with the coat on from the intro.
A little bit. I always have to wonder if this was intentional.
Yeah, he does look a little bit like. I appreciate that. Not too many.
I will pull these up. I did not sort through them yet, though. So if you want to turn away, you can.
Nope, just open them.
Okay.
Doesn't look like there's anything super.
I'll skip
spoilery.
like this one.
Nothing in the names, at least, is spoiler. Oh, we're gonna get to see one we've already seen. I just noticed.
So here's his Bond CE.
Okay, so that's Queen Anne's Revenge in there.
Yep.
I'd be willing to bet.
In the fucking bottle.
Yep. Let's shoot, steal, eat, assault, and kill. Have fun and live, have fun and die. As we're drowned in joy, pleasure, and happiness. As we're screaming, begging for more, aye. Let's struggle and die. There's no need to mourn the dead and repent for our sins. We're pirates, and we're destined for Davy Jones' locker. So what's there to worry? Ahoy, let's sail with our beloved ship, and get killed with a smile on our faces.
Like the silhouette of him there.
Yeah, no, it looks
like
really
all these
good.
arts are trying their best to make Blackbeard look cool, and he's just not cool.
Yeah, you know what this reminds me of? Pirates of the Caribbean 4.
In the bottle.
Because you've got Blackbeard and then all the ships in the bottle. Yeah. Blackbeard is featured in a lot of media. He's in Assassin's Creed Black Flag, too.
Now, being fair, Pirates 4 is probably the worst Pirates movie. Maybe 5. I can jump between the two.
I think that depends on how much you like the specific characters in each movie. I think I personally like the supporting cast in 5 better.
Little bit.
Okay. Look! Secret Stash Treasure Album. If you open any of them, you'll probably die. Your instincts as a master shout that warning, so you can't quite make yourself look at the contents. It's useless to ask Blackbeard. His memory's been wiped by an A-rank skill. Physically.
So, I'm pretty sure these are just,
Red envelopes? I said that weird.
I would have to reread the Valentine's thing. But that might be a porn mag stash.
Oh, you know what? That's valid. I only know one person here. I think.
So they're talking, but they don't say anything.
Tinkergill? Could just close that. Alright. Oh, I don't like that. Which sucks, because I actually really like the formal dress anniversary, but this is not...
You don't make Blackbeard look good.
They could have at least... Even Caesar gets, like, a dress outfit.
Okay, but formal and Blackbeard do not go together. At least Caesar was a good orator. Even in his fat-ass state.
Don't know who they are.
Yep.
I assume he's just in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know 2 of those people. 3. I know 3 of those people. Yep, because that's Paul Bunyan and Wu Zetian, isn't it?
I believe so.
Yep, snow pirates. When you think of winter, you think of snow. When you think of snow, you think of snowmen. When you think of snowmen, girls love them, and thus the gentleman has had the ultimate revelation. Oh, I get it. I have just become a snowman. The snowman will explode in 10, 9, 8. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I think Wu looks really cute here. I think Paul Bunyan looks really cute here. This is creepy as fuck.
Yes.
I don't
Yes,
like
it
that.
is.
They are children. They are children in Fate's artwork.
Yes.
I don't like this.
I don't like this either.
Who's chasing behind him with the giant snowball to clobber him? Jesus fucking Christ.
Oh, I know who that is. Not someone you've seen.
Okay.
But someone is trying to clobber
Good
him.
for them. We saw this one, and I didn't know who the person
you know,
in the back
two
was.
people now.
Yep.
I'm going to close out of this, although I don't think... Because we've seen this. And then...
Is that Ozzy?
That's Ozzy.
Click into that shit. Open that shit. Is that Vlad in the back?
No, that's not someone you've met yet.
Okay, but I just need a crop of Ozzy from this image. There's no names, you're good. Knowledge, experience, courage, initiative, and a little bit of luck. With all these men in place, it should be a cakewalk to find treasure. What's more crucial is what to do with the treasure afterwards. As per our written contract, the diver who found the treasure gets first dibs. But the captain's order is absolute, don't you think? Well, I am a pirate who loves the word monopolize, you know? Now, shouldn't you all behave yourselves more like the gentlemen of the sea? But it's Ozzy! Click into that shit again. I need just a cutout of Ozzy from this image.
Just Ozzy, just
He's
cropped
dripping! Out. He's dripping! Dripping!
We're going to close this for your own health.
But it was so pretty.
So yeah, that's Blackbeard.
Finger guns.
I love the finger guns. You got any real thoughts here?
You know what? For all that Fate made him like a weirdo, otaku, whatever, you know, like incel, it's pretty accurate. I can't hate it. I wish he had like a bushier beard, but that's really my only complaint. It's just a bushier beard. You know, the Queen Anne's Revenge looks great. They're pretty spot on with like the history stuff that I presume the history of Blackbeard is basically what I explained. You know?
Yeah.
They're not doing anything weird. He's not gender bent into a woman, as we're going to come across with a few of the other pirates. At least one of the other pirates on our list. So I don't hate it. I think it's pretty good. I wouldn't smash.
That's the question now is...
Would not smash. Glad I don't have him in... I don't think I have him in campaign.
No, I don't think you do.
I think Realm has him. I wouldn't get him if I had a choice. But he's not bad.
Maybe he needs to be locked up in a prison, but...
Yeah, I feel like I'd have him for the Queen Anne's Revenge, not for Blackbeard. Like I want him for the boat. I want the Boat.
The Boat.
I want the Boat.
So, yeah. Gosh, I guess I have to come
Who's
up with...
next?
Yeah,
Unlike last month, this next month is not going to be themed specifically by any like sort of thing. We just kind of picked and chose servants we wanted. So there's no overarching theme to help y'all guess. So
I'll just say this then. We're going to mention Tsukuhime again next time.
okay. See you guys later. Like, comment, subscribe.